Hello there and welcome back to another review. Today we're going to have a look at the second film in the James Bond franchise, and that is From Russia with Love, made in 1963 and directed by Terence, again starring Sean Connery in the lead role. I will be trying to get through all the Bonds, but we'll start as we mean to go on to number 2 now, From Russia with Love. This film is regarded to be it's very high on a lot of people's lists regards to the James Bond franchise. A lot of people say it is one of, if not the best entry into the series. This film had almost like double the budget compared to Dr. No, so they had a lot more money to spend on sort of locations and everything like that. Sean Connery's a lot more relaxed, I think, in this film. He seems to be a lot more at ease in the role, more so than Dr. No. I think the story and the locations are great. Robert Shaw makes a great villain, and it just works as one great big James Bond package. You know, it really does work. I mean, again, like I say, really high on a lot of people's lists. Really, a lot of people say it is the best James Bond film. It's usually very high rated. It's even going on as well at one point to have a video game based on it. Such is the influence and legacy of From Russia with Love. Of all the classic Bond movies, this was the one that actually got a video game adaptation many years ago now. But just as I say, just citing how important From Russia with Love was. And I think John F. Kennedy named this book as one of his the book by Fleming as one of his favourites, and I think this was the reason why the producers chose this as their film to adapt next, following on from Dr. No. I think Sean got about £100,000 bonus for doing this, in regards on top of his fee anyway. So Sean done all right from this one. Sean done more than okay. A lot of firsts in this film in regards to sort of the Bond formula. We get the gadgets from Q, we get a pre-title sequence, we get the theme song. It's worth mentioning as well, the actor who played Blofeld in this is actually Anthony Dawson, who played Dent in the previous movie, which I think I did mention about in my Dr. No review. It's just a bit of random trivia that I know. What also helps this film is the pace. It gets off to a bit of a slowish start, but in many ways it's sort of, you could even say this film is sort of Hitchcock in nature. It definitely has that Hitchcock vibe, that Hitchcock feel to it. I do believe even Daniel Craig and Timothy Dalton regard this as their favourite Bond film too. I mean, it's a brilliant Cold War Bond thriller, and it just works on all levels in terms of characters, settings, just the way it works. It really is a classic Bond film, and one of the if you're only familiar with sort of later Bonds, please go check this one out. There's a lot. It's definitely one of the better ones. It's definitely, if not, in the top Bond films ever made. So the film opens with this test that Spectre are using to sort of measure Grant's, played by Robert Shaw, skills at killing Bond. You think it's Sean that he's after. It is Sean Connery, but it's not Sean Connery. You think it's Sean that he's pursuing, and it's actually, like I say, just sort of a dummy. It's a training test, and it's someone in like a Sean mask, much like if you imagine Tom Cruise Mission Impossible style. It's that, he's got a mask on to sort of resemble Sean Connery. I'm not sure if it's ever explained who the guy is beneath the mask, or why he was willing to do that and be like a pawn in Spectre's twisted game of just testing Grant's abilities. I don't know. Maybe he just was somebody they caught and they thought, right, well, you can be one of Grant's victims in this training exercise. I'm not too sure, but not 100% sure that's ever explained, but it doesn't matter who Grant kills. Then we go to this chess match being played by Kronstein, and he's like sort of a chess master. He can calculate things, he can plan things, and he works for Spectre, and he's like he can always plan a fail-safe plan, a fail-safe operation that would not have any no comebacks. And like I say, he's a chess player. He knows strategically the next move to make, what to do. He gets called by Spectre, and they plan to steal a lecter from the Soviets, and in doing so they will use a cipher clerk from the consulate and someone from the Secret Service. They won't know, these two people won't know they are being used, and in doing so the idea is that Spectre can get back at Bond for what happened in Dr. No. And Spectre are positive they're going to send James Bond. They're sort of, they'll send their best operative. They know they're going to send Bond. That's who they're going to send. I mean, James must have a bit of a rep at this point. James, that's their best agent. They know they're going to send James Bond. They know the British will take the bait as they want the Lecter too. Interesting to note, this was very much one of the early films in that you get the big, tall, blonde baddie. If you think like films like Living Daylights or Tomorrow Never Dies, they all have that big, brutish, burly, blonde bad guy. Like the main henchman, the main guy. It's just something like, again, it's like, say with Robert Shaw in this one, it is that itself is something the a few Bond films did repeat later on, and even other films in general. Klebb is the woman in charge of convincing the girl that she is doing it for a country, but in fact she's doing it for Spectre. So they've got their plan in place. They know they're going to use these two people as pawns to get what they want, and that's what's interesting about this film, because why it's so suspenseful is the whole time Bond and the girl do not know they're being played. Like they, Spectre throughout, although like I say, Bond does get out of scrapes here and there, but overall throughout the film, Spectre do have the upper hand, because Bond is totally like oblivious and unaware to what's going on. Like he has no idea that Grant is protecting him all the time. He has no idea what their plan is with the girl, what their plan is with him, and I think that's why the film works, because there is that suspense going through the whole of the film. So we cut to Bond, who is frolicking around with Sylvia Trench, who we may remember who's briefly in the first film. She's in this one briefly as well. Romanova says she will defect from them, like with Machine. She will defect, who is the girl, like the main lead, as long as they send Bond. Q gives Bond a special briefcase that has, again, like I said earlier, first time we get to see Q giving Bond his gadgets at the start of the mission. It's always good that Q knows exactly what Bond's going to need. So he gives him like this briefcase that has like gas as a safety device, even has like a sort of sniper rifle that Bond can assemble in it. Bond goes to the MI6 branch in Istanbul and meets with Ali Karim Bey. He learns he spies on the Russians underneath their building using like a periscope, sort of like submarine style. Ali Karim Bey just walks, they have this system where he can go and just get to underneath their headquarters so he can sort of peer into their base of operations. Then they go and stay with some gypsies. This whole time, like I mentioned, Grant is protecting Bond, because as Bond is so important to their plan, Grant's main role is to sort of protect Bond, to make sure no harm comes to him, because obviously they need Bond to make sure their plan is successful and it goes according to plan and the way they want it to. So Grant, he saves Bond's life like numerous times throughout the film. He definitely saves his life 2 or 3 times, because without Grant, Bond would have died long time ago. But like Grant says at the end, he I've been your guardian angel this whole time. So this assassin called Krylenko is trying to kill Ali Karim Bey, and at this settlement scene at the gypsy camp, they're doing all these like sort of stealthy knife kills when they're approaching. They do it, you think, okay, they're going to really sneak in, and then they come in just sort of all guns blazing. It turns into this massive sort of shootout, because even though they were stealthy at the start, then they just go sort of kamikaze and just sort of go in, just firing, like it just all kicks off basically. Whilst they're after the attack, I think we are led to believe that Bond beds 2 women at the same time, I believe. I'm not sure. I think that is definitely hinted upon. But, James Bond always has to get his kicks somehow, doesn't he? Even in the midst of danger, he always has to have a bit of pleasure, a bit of nookie now and then. So, great scene I like where Bond later and with Ali Karim Bey, they're using, because they're trying to take out Krylenko, but they're using each other's like sort of shoulder, because they've got Bond's sniper rifle. And Bond is going to take the shot using his shoulder, and like Ali Karim Bey's, no, I want to do it. It's got to be me that does it. And I just like that idea of just like, then with this sniper rifle that Bond's assembled, and they're just helping each other. Like, if you want to like use my shoulder to steady it so you can take a clearer shot and get the kill. So Romanova turns up, and of course they go to bed together. She gives him the plans for the consulate where the lecturer is, during which time Grant kills another guy to protect Bond. Then Bond gets her to talk into like this recording for M to just verify that the lecturer and what they're after is genuine. M says it is, like the way she's describing it, is that sounds exactly what we're after. So they go get lecturer and go out underneath the building. Ali Karim, of course, he has unlimited sons as well. It's worth mentioning that all seem to be helping him. He's just got sons everywhere, this guy. Ali Karim Bey has got so many sons. He's got so many like kids helping him out. So they get out on the Orient Express where Bond and Romanova if I can say her name right, have like fake IDs, and they turn like they're Mr. and Mrs. Somerset. And of course, after going to bed, Sean has to do the thing that he used to do in a couple of the films. He gives her a firm slap on the behind, something that would definitely be like a no in Bond this day and age. But yeah, he gives her a slap on the bum. So Karem gets killed. Bond questions girl and he even punches her at one point, because this is where Bond isn't sure what's going on. He thinks like she's in on it, like it's her responsibility. Tell me what you know, because she doesn't even, like I say, it's that's what keeps the film interesting, because they don't know. They both have no idea that they're being played, that they're being used by Spectre all the time. Throughout, like I say, the bulk of the film, Spectre are calling the shots. Everything's going exactly as they had planned. So I say he basically accuses her of, what's the deal, who killed him, about the death of Ali Krembe, and Bond goes to meet an agent named Nash, but Grant actually takes Nash's identity. Tense scene of them, all three of them having dinner, because you're not sure at this point, does Bond know this isn't Nash? Because Grant's like sort of taking like who he's meant to be and is like sort of pretending to be him, and you're not sure if Bond does know, doesn't know. Is he just playing it cool? Is he letting Grant just do, seeing where this goes? You say you're not sure if he's just like biding time, seeing what happens. So he drugs the girl and actually karate chops Bond at one point. He goes out, and then later he does the stereotypical villain thing of like explaining his plans, what the whole idea was. And the dynamic between Robert Shaw and Sean Connery here is really good. Grant and Bond have there's almost like a hatred in Grant's eyes, the way he talks to Bond, like, you've been played the whole time. He reveals the whole, operation of what they're going to do. Just basically keeping them alive, just so they can deliver the Lecter, and they're both expendable. And just to prove how like sadistic Grant is, he says at one point he says the first bullet won't kill you, neither the second nor the third, until you get over here and you kiss my feet. I mean, this is one bad dude, right? This is one evil son of a gun. So, as I say, the dynamic between the two in that scene on the train carriage is really does work. It's to say Robert Shaw plays the part of Grant brilliantly, really does. So he eventually Grant succumbs to the gas in the case. You knew that at some point somebody was going to get the gas in the face. So Grant gets that, and then a punch up ensues, and Bond just wins as always. So Bond and the girl escape using Grant's escape route that he told them about, and a helicopter comes after them, which Bond manages to take out. Really cool scene here. Love how Bond, when they get on the boat, I love when they get on this sort of speedboat, going along the water, and that Bond has to don the captain's hat. He has to, nothing to do with the fact his hair might get messed up or his hair might come off or get out of place, but no, he has to put on, the captain's hat just because, he's on the water now, he's got to look the part. So yeah, Bond puts on a captain's hat. I say nothing at all to do with Sean's hair. So as they've escaped, they've sort of got away. Kronstein ends up getting kicked in the leg with a poisonous knife for his failure. Klebb is ordered to go and get the Lecter back for the Russians for a price under sort of Blofeld's orders. She comes in on Bond and the girl as sort of a maid. And what was a shame, like Romanova, is that there's no sort of scene where she you have a reveal of Bond being told that he's been played and he's been sort of a puppet, and this where sort of Shaw is telling him on the train. With the girl, there's never sort of it's never depicted a scene where she is sort of realizing that she has been used. It's sort of there's no sort of big reveal with her sort of reaction to having been used. I know there is maybe some subtle hints at that, but there's no sort of major sort of 40-50 second reveal scene where she's like Bond's telling her everything, and like that's why there probably is a scene like that in it, but what I'm saying is it wasn't anything memorable that I can remember anyway myself. no, like I say, no real like her realising it's just being used, at least not in like a dramatic way, is what I'm trying to say. It just doesn't come across like she feels all disappointed in herself and her, how easily misled she was, like Bond was, and they've both been played by fools. So Kleb comes in, and they're having a scuffle, Bond and Kleb, and the girl, she's like, they're having a little rumble, and the girl's going like this with the gun, like trying to. It's like they're not spinning round around or anything. It's not like they're going over a room. It's like, just shoot Kleb. Like they're right in front of you, but she's on the floor. It's like going like this with the pistol. So Kleb ends up, they overpower her, and it ends basically with them two on a boat, and Bond chucks away this sort of film, this recording. But no, for Russia with Love, it's a very good film. It's a really it's one of the better Bond films, definitely one of the better Sean Connerys. And I say, if you've never seen sort of some of the older Bonds, or you don't know where to start, I mean, you could go in order, but From Russia with Love is definitely one to watch, even if you haven't seen some of the older stuff, especially some of the Sean Connery stuff, because everything works in this film. And as I mentioned, it plays very much like a suspenseful sort of Agatha Christie, Hitchcocky kind of thriller, with, like I say, Spectre having the upper hand, but Bond the whole time is totally blissfully unawares of what is happening and what Spectre's plans is, because he thinks, both him and the girl think, I'm here because of this, you're here because of that, but the whole time there is another force behind that, in the sense of Blofeld and Spectre. And it's just, like I say, it's just that notion that Bond isn't in control. And I think that is something that why this film works, is because, like I say, I think the settings work, I think the villain works, I think the plot works, and I think it just overall is very much a classic Bond in every sense of the word. And as I mentioned at the start of the review, a lot of firsts in this. Like I say, the pre-title sequence, Q making his first appearance, the idea of him getting briefed on the mission, then getting his gadgets for the mission at the start, and it really did, like I say, set many trends and many traits for what was to follow in subsequent Bond films and sort of action films in general as well. So if you've never seen it, please go and check out From Russia with Love. I will try and get through all of the Bond movies. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.